Today I'm going to tell you about the community of Townsend, Georgia in McIntosh County. Townsend is also a community. There's also an area in McIntosh County too that covers most of McIntosh County. The Townsend I'm going to focus on today is the community that's Highway 251. Townsend, Georgia was named after Joseph Townsend, who worked for the railroad and laid out the route of the new line on the western side of McIntosh County. The railroads that went through Townsend at the time was Florida Northeast Railway, Florida and Central Peninsula in 1893, and the final one in 1900, Seaboard Airline Railway. Townsend's first name was Stop 96, but it also was called Hilton and Flotana. In 1893, the name Stop 96 changed to Townsend Flotana, and eventually they just dropped the Flotana and named it Townsend. The community of Townsend was basically created because of the railroad, the train going through. The whole western part of McIntosh County was a big lumber and turpentine area back in the 1920s and 30s. So that whole area over there from Barrington, Cox, Townsend, Warsaw, Jones, all those places to Ludwig were all a lot going on in that area during that time in the 1920s and 30s. The railroad came through Townsend and Cox and Barrington and all those areas, Warsaw, because there was a lumber mill in Warsaw, Townsend, and there was a turpentine mill in the same area, and there was the brick company down in Ludwig, so there was a lot going on that train line. A mail route was established from Darien to Townsend, because Townsend was the main mail hub of western McIntosh, and it was about 13.5 miles from Darien. They had in the 1900s they had a school, they had a dry goods store, they had a general store, they had a train depot, a sawmill, and naval stores. A naval store is where you get parts for your boat and ships and stuff like that. Trains went through Townsend several times a day during the 1920s and 30s. The first stop was at 7 a.m., the second stop was at 1 p.m., and the third stop 5:30 p.m. Townsend also had a sawmill in it one time. It was called the Scott's Mill. It was run by T.T. Scott, and the foreman was Mr. Enos, but eventually burned down. And Townsend was the commercial center of McIntosh County at that time. In 1910, they built the Methodist Church in Townsend, and Arthur Moore, the same person who started Edward by the Sea on St. Simon's, built the church, the Methodist Church in Townsend, and eventually left there and went to St. Simon's and started Edward by the Sea in the 1950s. These are named some of the stores that existed in Townsend during the 1920s and 30s. Middleton's General Store, a medical practice. Dr. W.J. Long was a doctor of Townsend at the time, and also they had a drugstore. Also in Townsend they had Sweeney's Grocery and E.M. Thorpe Naval Stores. Seaboard Airline Railroad was the main north to south railroad running through the town in the 1930s. Okay, during the 1920s and 30s, most of the important things like the stores and the church were all built near the railroad because that was a lifeline, but the houses were built for a little bit further away, but they were still close. But on the west side of the train tracks was a small depot, and a little bit north was a tobacco house. And on the east side of the train tracks was a freight shed, a cattle run, and a cotton gin. Okay, Seaboard Avenue was the main road that went through Townsend at the time, which is now 251, I believe. And east of Seaboard Avenue, which is 251 today, was Cherry Street intersected Oak Street. Also, some of the roads we spoke about is Oak Street and Liberty Street, and some of the other ones are in here too, or they're long gone. But this is the same. And this is a satellite view of the community of Townsend. You can see some of the stuff there. You see Oak Street, Liberty Street. But right here, this road right here is Seaboard Avenue, the main road during the time when Townsend was created in the 1920s and 30s. This picture is a picture of the Warsaw Vault that's also in the Townsend area. On the west side of Seaboard Avenue was a store, the post office, the Brick Methodist Church. This picture is the smallest church in America, also technically located in Townsend, but it's on the east side of McIntosh County. C.H. Davis was the postmaster of Townsend, Georgia, and also a store owner. Davis also helped bring electricity to Townsend. In 1929, Ellen Townsend started Omaha Inn on Highway 17 in Darien, and it lasted for 30 years.